Hello, and welcome to the Josh Brown Podcast. With over 40 years of combined financial planning experience serving high net worth clients, we will discuss our favorite topics, concepts, and stories. Hello, and welcome back to the Josh Brown Podcast. I'm Devin Joss.
I'm Michelle Robinson.
And Michelle is here, and today we have a topic. We're going to be talking about rental properties, and if you have a rental property, how to know when to keep it, when to sell it, all the different decisions that go through people's minds. So there'll be kind of two aspects of this episode. One is the financial side, and then secondly would be the emotional side of if you do decide to part ways with the house, then how to exactly do that emotionally. So let's get started with the rental property itself. How did you get this rental property?
So I get this rental property because I decide I want to diversify my portfolio, and I just don't want stock, but I want some real estate, and I want real properties. Yeah.
Investment. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's an investment, and so some people get it by saying they're going to invest and diversify their portfolio. Some people determine that, you know what, I have an extra home and I'm going to dip into the real estate market just to see what it feels like. Okay. And some people might acquire an inherited home and say, you know what, I don't have a need for it. Let me go ahead and just rent it out and make some money in the meantime. Right?
Okay. So maybe you have a house already and you decide to buy another rental for maybe cash flow purposes, or you're hoping it appreciates.
Correct.
Or you buy a home and you get some raises, you have some kids, and you buy a new primary home, and you use that first one as a rental. Or thirdly, like you said, an inheritance. You get a house from someone that maybe passed away or they gave it to you. And now what do you do with that? Maybe there'd be some extra cost to that, I'm sure, gaining a house, but you could sell it, or, so many different things you can do.
There's so many different things that you could do with an inherited property. You could sell it, of course, and take the money and do whatever you want to do with the money at that point. But if you decide that you want to keep it as an investment property, it's good to keep it as an investment property. But there are a few things to determine if an investment, real estate is a good investment, and should you keep it or not keep it, right? We want to look at the neighborhood, right? Because if the neighborhood is not a great neighborhood where the property is going to appreciate, then considering it to be a rental property may not be the best thing for you to do. It might be better to just go ahead and sell that property, right? We want to look at the age of the home, right? Because if the home is really aging and you have to keep putting money into that property for maintenance and fixing that property, that could deplete your cash flow.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, you want to look at overall the numbers that we would run as a financial advisor is we look at the cash flow. What is the income coming in? Are there vacancies in the property that we need to account for? Maintenance of the property, operating costs of the property. And if we realize over time that the client keep taking from their savings and there's not enough profit to sustain the property, then of course we'll watch the trend of that and see over time, does it make sense to continue keeping the home or not? Because you also have a property manager, and you're going to have to pay the property manager as well, right?
Yeah.
So those are the numbers that we'll run overall. And if the net cash flow is negative, and it's negative consistently over a period of time, then we might say to the client, let's have a conversation about this investment. The first thing people need to remember is that we're investing for a return. Yep. And if there's no return, then it doesn't make sense, right? This is something we're just like, this doesn't make sense.
Well, then they could say, hey, it's not making me any money, but it is appreciating, perhaps.
Right. And if
it's a nice apartment in New York City, and it's just doubling in value, but you're not making anything on it.
Right, but then in that case, it might be worth the conversation of, okay, let's go ahead and consider selling that property, because while it may be appreciating, but if you're having a negative cash flow and you're depleting your savings and keep pouring money into this property, then really, even if it's appreciating, is it really working out in your best favor, right? And so those are the things that we have to think about when it comes to a rental property, like the expense of it, right? And the income. And so we have to factor all of those things into question. Because you could be in an area as well where only so much that the rent can go to. There's a cap.
Yeah.
And if there's a cap on that and HOA fees are increasing, then it's less likely that you're going to be able to see any profit. Some people might say, well, let's refinance and see if by refinancing the property, is it going to be worthwhile to refinance, because we may get a lower rate, and if we get a lower rate, then the income may come in, right?
Yeah.
So you have to run those numbers, because you could run those numbers, and when you do, it still doesn't make sense to refinance and keep the property. It may just make better sense to just put the property on the market, sell it, and get the gains that you could get from it, pay whatever taxes if you need to pay any taxes on it, and figure out a different investment.
Yeah. So that's kind of the main first reality check question is, does this rental property make sense? I've had it for this long, or I inherited it, but does the positive cash flow outweigh the mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, maintenance, management fees, like you said, a property manager? And if those are not being covered with the rent, then you might have to ask yourself another question after that, like, do I sell this now?
Exactly. And one tidbit right there that many people tend not to do is they'll have their rental property, their client will sign, their tenant will sign a rental lease, and they don't index the rent for inflation. So then to keep having those conversations with your tenant. And another thing to think about is I had one client who was just like, I just don't feel like I want to be a landlord anymore. So that's also an
it's
option.
It's a job, yeah.
Exactly. You know, they feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. And because I don't want to do this anymore, then this investment is not the best investment for me. So there are so many things to factor in, and it all depends on your goals and what you want to do to make it make sense for you.
Yeah,
right?
Especially being a landlord is a job, and some people have 7, 8, or 9 rental properties, and they're getting older, and it's just them, and that's a lot of work. So you can consider consolidating that, and there's different investment options.
Yeah. And I know some people might say, but you have an investment manager, you have a property manager. Yeah, you do have a property manager, but there's still things that the property manager is going to come to you about that you're going to have to make decisions on. And so you may have a property manager who's going to do the legwork and the heavy lifting, but you still have to be the one that's going to be in the know and make the decisions, right? Yeah. And so you could be in a space where you're like, mentally, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, so that kind of covers the first financial aspect of selling a house. Now we go to the psychology of selling this rental property. Let's say, all right, so I'll give you a little story here, and I'll see what you say. This is my first house. I bought it when I was maybe I just graduated college, and I just got married. I've gotten a couple of raises. I could maybe buy a house somewhere else. We're looking to move. What do I do with my current house?
Well, with your current house, I would be thinking, okay, if you want to rent it, then we could look at the numbers again to look at it to rent it, right? Because of course, some people start out with a smaller home, right? And then they decide they want a forever home because now they have a family. Yeah. And so they could decide to keep that first home to make it an investment property. Or they could say, you know what? No, I'm okay with my forever home. Let's just go ahead and sell this property.
Let's forget about it.
So that's an easy conversation, right? The conversation now is when the client decided, okay, I'm going to make this a rental property. And then we've come to the realization that this rental property is not a great investment. And now have to talk through the emotional part of it. So having that conversation is the first thing that I always bring the client back to is what is an investment, right?
Yeah.
And once we can determine what an investment is, that it's something that we want to make returns on, and if we're not making returns on it, then it's no longer a good investment. And if it's not a good investment, let's consider how we could get rid of it. Then we talk through the emotional part of it, of course, because we all have an attachment to something.
My first house.
Exactly.
I worked really hard for that.
Exactly. So then you have to talk through the psychology and the emotional part of it and let the client come to realization, I do understand that this is an emotional decision for you because this is your first home, but we have to look at the fact that the numbers doesn't lie. Yeah. And if the number doesn't lie and we have other goals that we want to make sure we're accomplishing, does it make sense to keep pouring money into something that's not generating the returns that you want? Yeah. And so oftentimes the client will come to the realization and it's like, no, it isn't. So let's go ahead and put the house on the market and sell the house, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the psychology part of it. It's the same thing with it's no different than somebody inherits stock, right?
Yeah.
Some people hold it and some people may sell it, but there's always some psychology,
Some
emotional thing
attachment.
attached to something.
Yeah.
And some client may be like, no, my grandfather bought this. This was his first stock,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get rid of it.
Or like my grandpa worked for that company and built it up, and I don't want to sell it. or
Exactly.
part.
Exactly. And my grandfather bought this house after the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sell this
Yeah.
house, even though the house is just falling apart and it's draining me.
Yeah.
So those are the conversation that we tend to have with clients. Some client may say, well, let's go ahead and sell it. Some client may say, no, you know what, Michelle, it may be draining, but I'll figure out a different way to utilize this product. It may no longer be an investment property, but let's figure out something else for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not always the case. Maybe you are profiting off the house. Maybe it is a great investment. Maybe it's appreciating. Maybe you love the tenants in the house, and
You're in a
you don't
great
always
neighborhood.
you don't always have to sell it. Speak to a financial advisor, seek counsel with those types of things. But don't just make a rash decision. Don't up and sell it. Don't keep it forever if you're losing money.
Yeah, this is just a conversation for when to sell and when not to sell, right? This is that conversation. And so there are some times when you're going to, it's okay to keep the property, and there are going to be times when it's okay to sell the property. It's just, let's just make the best decision based upon your goals.
Let's make a
and
plan for it.
Yeah, make a plan for it. I like that. Make a plan for it and let it work for you. Yes.
Such a financial planner thing to say. Let's make a plan. But yeah, I get you're right with the emotional side of it. Having your personal goals should align with what you do with the house. Like, make sure there's no burden. The house should not be a burden for you.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yep. And so if it is a burden, or you need to make that decision and you want to run the numbers, seek professional counsel. Like we always say, speak to a financial advisor so they could run the numbers for you and determine if the property is even worth investing in. Another thing to think about, we talk about the fact that think about if when a property is great to rent. Also speak to a financial advisor, because we could run the numbers and tell you if this is a great investment to invest in a rental property as well. So that's the flip side to it as well.
I think I've seen so much stuff online, especially from my generation. Just buy a house, turn it into Airbnb, and you won't ever have to work ever again. It's like, that's not exactly how that works.
Yeah, but you could buy an Airbnb, and guess what? You may put it in a location where
No one will ever go
is-
there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then, are you not going to work for the rest of your life? So-
Yeah. Or I saw a guy that's like, buy 200 units. It's like, how am I going to buy that? What are you talking about? I
just left college. Where am I getting
Yeah,
money?
exactly. Yeah, but there's so much of that putting that in people's heads where they can just get rich quick.
Right.
And it's not always how that works.
Yeah, it's not the best thing that you're seeing on the internet these days, because everybody wants to either get rich quick or they want to be a millionaire. They no longer want to work. Nobody, I won't say nobody, what they're spreading like people shouldn't work hard anymore. But I mean, there's value in working hard and doing things the right way, and getting your riches the right way.
Yeah. And one of the things we didn't hit on with the rental property is if you do sell it, then you probably learned a lot of things, and you can take that knowledge with you.
Yep. You can take that lesson with you, either good or bad, and you could decide to use it in the next property you invest in, or decide not to based upon what you learned. So there you go. Yes.
Yeah, you can always sell one and buy a different one, maybe, just depending on what you learned, what situation you're in. Okay, cool. I think that was a pretty good episode.
Yes.
You have anything else to add?
Not at all. I think this was a fun topic here to talk about when to rent and when to sell a rental property and when to keep it. So I think this was a fun episode. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions or any topics that you'd want to listen to, then feel free to email us or call us or hit us up on the website. But yeah, thank you for joining us on today's episode, and we look forward to seeing y'all again. Thanks.
Have a good one. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Joss Brown Podcast. If you'd like to see more episodes, visit our website at jossbrown.com.